40 years had passed since Moses left Egypt. These days, instead of walking through Pharaoh's palace, Moses spent his time walking through the wilderness, tending his father-in-law's sheep. One day started just like so many others had, and Moses led the flock farther out into the desert toward the mountain called Horeb. Sheep moved along around him, his feet pressed against the dry ground as he walked. And nothing out there would have told Moses that before this day was over, his whole life was about to change. Then something caught his eye. There was a bush burning. Flames moved through its branches, but something wasn't right. The longer Moses watched it, the stranger it became. The fire kept burning, but the bush didn't burn up. Moses stopped, and he looked at it for a little while, then said, "I will now turn aside and see this great sight, why the bush is not burnt." So Moses left the path he was walking and started toward it, a little closer, then a little closer. And when God saw that Moses had turned aside to see, a voice came from the middle of that fire. "Moses, Moses." Moses stopped. Out there in that wilderness, God had called his name. Moses answered, "Here am I." Then God said, "Draw not nigh hither, put off thy shoes from off thy feet, for the place whereon thou standest is holy ground." Moses reached down and took off his shoes, and the ground he'd been walking across just moments before was now underneath his bare feet. Same wilderness, same dirt, but now Moses knew he was standing in the presence of God. Then God said, "I am the God of thy father, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob." Moses hid his face. He was afraid to look upon God. And there, with the sheep somewhere behind him, his shoes lying on the ground, and that fire still burning in front of him, God started talking to Moses about Egypt. He told Moses he'd seen the affliction of his people. He had heard their cries. He knew what they were going through, and he had come down to deliver them. Then God said, "Come now therefore, and I will send thee unto Pharaoh." Pharaoh. Moses had spent 40 years away from Egypt. 40 years since he'd gotten out of there and headed to the wilderness. And now, standing barefoot in front of that burning bush, God was telling him to go back. Moses asked, "Who am I that I should go unto Pharaoh?" And God answered, "Certainly I will be with thee." But Moses had questions. If he went back to the children of Israel and told them the God of their fathers had sent them, what was he supposed to say when they asked him his name? And God said, "I am that I am." Then he told Moses, "Thus shalt thou say unto the children of Israel, I am hath sent me unto you." God told Moses to gather the elders of Israel. He told them they would listen. He told Moses they would go to Pharaoh, and he told him Pharaoh wouldn't let him go at first. But God already knew what he was going to do. Still, Moses worried that the people wouldn't believe him. God asked him, "What is that in thine hand?" Moses looked at the ordinary shepherd's rod he'd been carrying, and a rod. God told him to throw it on the ground. Moses let it go. The rod hit the ground and became a serpent. Moses ran from it, but God told him to reach out and take it by the tail. So Moses came back. He reached down toward the serpent, took a hold of it, and it became a rod again in his hand. Then God told Moses to put his hand inside his coat. Moses slipped his hand inside. When he pulled it back out, his hand was leprous, white as snow. God told him to put it back again. Moses did. And when he pulled his hand out the second time, it was restored. God even gave Moses another sign he could use if the people still wouldn't believe. But Moses had another reason he didn't think he was the man for the job. He told God, "Oh my Lord, I am not eloquent." Moses said he was slow of speech and slow of tongue. And God asked him, "Who hath made man's mouth?" Then God said, Now therefore go, and I will be thy mouth, and teach thee what thou shalt say. But Moses still hesitated. He asked God to send somebody else. This time, the Lord was angry with him. But God told Moses that his brother Aaron could speak well. In fact, Aaron was already on his way to meet him. Moses would tell Aaron what God had said, and God would teach them what to do. Then God brought Moses right back to what he was holding. And thou shalt take this rod in thine hand, wherewith thou shalt do signs. That rod, that same ordinary rod Moses had carried while tending sheep through the wilderness. Moses went back to his father-in-law and asked to return to Egypt. And God told him the men who had wanted him dead were gone. So Moses gathered his family and started back toward Egypt. The wilderness stretched out ahead of him again, but this time Moses wasn't walking farther away from Pharaoh. He was going back, and in his hand was the same rod he'd carried when this day began. Only now, Scripture calls it the rod of God. 40 years earlier, Moses had gotten out of Egypt and headed to the wilderness. He probably thought that part of his life was over, but God had used those 40 years. Moses knew Egypt. Now, he knew the wilderness too, and when God called him, Moses looked at everything he thought was wrong with himself. Who am I? I can't speak well. What if they don't believe me? What am I supposed to tell them? Moses had reason after reason why he didn't think he was enough, but God never needed Moses to be enough. When Moses asked, "Who am I?" God said, "Certainly I will be with thee." And when Moses wanted to know who had sent him, God said, "I am." Maybe you've looked at something God has put in front of you and asked the same question. Who am I? I don't know enough. I can't do that. Somebody else could do it better. But God already knew every weakness Moses had before he ever called his name from that bush. He called him anyway. And maybe the question was never, who am I? Because when the one sending you is I am, who you are was never the biggest part of the story.